hail up to the size of golf balls, and also winds greater than 60 miles per hour, perhaps gusts up to 70 along that leading edge and within the storm. We have our storm teams out, and they're on the cells that you can see. You can see Val Castor on the left-hand side of your screen, and he's beneath where that circulation would be just south of it as well. So once again, this is going to be on its way to the north and west, and we are staying on the for folks in western and central Osage County. Basically along and south of Highway 60 and to the west of Highway 99 is the area we're most concerned about, and it's that notch right there that is going to be of concern. We're going to switch radar sites here so we can get a better example of this and turn on the reflectivity, changing over to the storm relative velocity, and this tells us where that circulation is, and right now very close to Fairfax is where we're noting that. We'll go closer in here so you can see kind of where that is on radar, and this is going to include areas north of Ralston. You're officially in the warning, Ralston, but it does appear the main threat will be from really the Arkansas River to the north. So looking street by street, north side of Fairfax, that is where I'm seeing the circulation, and that is where you need to be taking cover in that interior room, also in a place that would be away from outside walls and windows. So basically we're going to be seeing this moving to the north and west through Little Chief, Remington, Gray Horse, Strome, and then eventually Pawhuska. You're towards probably that after 3 o'clock time frame. But this system really wrapped up quickly, and we're also concerned about it because it lies along a boundary, and that boundary would enhance some of the shear for that system to work with, and therefore it is going to be a concern for those of us that are watching this and worried about, once again, some of the activity that will continue its way eastward. Now, if you're in Tulsa right now, this is not affecting you. This is a severe thunderstorm warning and a tornado warning in effect through about 3:15 for the areas north and west of town. This does include Pawhuska for the tornado warning, Hominy down to Pawnee, you're in the severe thunderstorm warning. This will also go all the way towards Bartlesville eventually. So if you're in Bartlesville, this is where you need to be weather aware. Make sure you have your weather plan in place in case a warning is issued. You know where to go, and you can get to that safe place pretty quickly. There is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 10 o'clock as well. It is for areas north of Tulsa. At this point, that warning for Tulsa is not, or there is no warning for Tulsa, but to the north and west of town, the warnings go until at least 3:15. Could be going on even later than that, assuming this storm is once again tapping into a very unstable air mass. Will track its way across Osage County, eventually towards Bartlesville, Cope, Hanna, and Dewey. Just a down the road heads up for you. Now, the immediate concern is for the area really south of Burbank down to Fairfax. We're looking at that notch. That is the notch that indicates inflow and possible rotation within that storm. And so as we go closer in, you'll notice that it includes Fairfax and Remington, Little Chief. Switching back over to the velocities, we will once again see here. There we are. All right, an update on the velocity showing the green and the red. So we've got rotation there that is taking place mainly north of Fairfax. This is still a big concern. If you're in Fairfax, take cover now. South of Burbank, this is also where you'd want to be taking cover as well. Shidler, if you're in the Shidler community, I would as well be taking cover. At least be aware that you might have winds in excess of 60 miles per hour with golf ball size hail underway. Speaking of which, let's talk about the hail. We're certainly getting a very strong hail signal in and around Fairfax and also back to Burbank and western places west of there, I should say. In fact, the hail signature goes all the way down into west central Pawnee County from west of Pawnee, northward through Burbank, all the way up towards about 4 Acre. This is where the hail threat is. But the actual threat for any sort of rotation and severe weather would be near Fairfax. Here's our shear rate product. This would also indicate where we're talking about that potential for rotation. Right now, it's not an excessively strong signal, but it's strong enough. It is a concern. We have not had a confirmed report of a tornado, but certainly there is that threat. This storm is wrapped up and moving its way to the north and west at about 25 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and do another storm track on this, and once again, this will be taking it all the way from basically Burbank to Fairfax and points to the west-northwest from there. All right, so we're going to draw this on for Burbank down to Fairfax, and what you'll see. All right, we're going to take this back out here about 25 to 27 miles per hour. And this is the warning going really for the areas for Little Chief, Strome, and on from there even into Gray Horse. This is the area where I would be taking cover. Latest shear rate product, once again, it is a little bit away from our radar site, so this will be a place where we'd end up with a little bit of clutter on the radar. In any case, Fairfax, still, this is the time to be taking cover. All right, we're going to switch back to velocities here, or the reflectivity, I should say. We do have this tornado warning going until 3:30, in fact, for areas from Pawhuska to Fairfax, Remington, and Winona. This is kind of over the open countryside, the prairie land between Fairfax and Pawhuska, the area of greatest concern. This will be continuing its way west-northwestward down the road. Bartlesville, you could be in line for this. Not necessarily a tornado warning, but there is that signature for at least a brief spin-up, not too 3:30. In addition to the tornado threat, there is also the concern for possible hail to the size of golf balls and also to winds up to 70 miles per hour. We're going to switch on over to INX here, and that is going to give us the best look at this storm at this time. We will notice that there it is on radar, kind of the new image here showing that pretty well-defined inflow notch. That is going to be near Fairfax, south of Little Chief. It has advanced beyond Fairfax just a little bit. Going over to the velocities, here's a look. We still have a very strong outbound signal or inbound from near Fairfax that indicates strong winds moving towards the radar site, which is located near Inola. And then this away signature also indicating some winds that are creating that circulation right in the open countryside to the north and east of Fairfax now. This will be on its way north and east, really from the areas around Fairfax, and going at about 25 miles per hour or so. That is our main concern. Once again, in addition to the tornado threat, we also have the golf ball size hail concern. The winds with this also up to 70 miles per hour in addition to this. So once again, this is moving closer to 40 miles per hour now. So we do think that this will be around Pawhuska by about 3:05. 3:05 is when you will need to be in that safe spot. But if you're in Pawhuska now, go ahead, head to that safe spot and just once again be in advance of this thing. We're going to draw on another track here, taking it from the center of rotation and moving its way eastward. So we're going to center this anywhere from near the Little Chief area down to about Gray Horse, and this is going to be moving to the west-northwest at about 40 miles per hour. So that puts it in Pawhuska at 3:20. Could be arriving a bit sooner. This storm is tapping into not only high levels of shear along a boundary, it's also tapping into the potential for high instability. That means you could also get, in addition to the spinning motion within the storm, it can also enhance the threat for hail and the winds that could be in excess of 70 miles per hour, it appears. All right, so switching back over to reflectivity, the mode we're most used to seeing on radar, you'll see that we also have some very powerful reflectivity coming in to the west of Fairfax. So Fairfax, you're getting ready to get pummeled by quite a bit of hail. Our Barron button indicating hail is really going very high. That would be a golf ball size hail signature coming in from north of Fairfax towards Remington and back up to Burbank. You're likely to see at least moderate size hail up to the size of quarters, and that would also go all the way back to northwestern sections of Pawnee County. This warning does go until 3:30, and we're going to be tracking this all across Osage County as it is a threat to life and property in these zones. Once again, this is going to be a concern for areas to the west and northwest of Tulsa, not a concern for Tulsa itself. Here's how the storm has been moving rather quickly to the west-northwest. It formed over Noble County, quickly went severe, and now it's got that signature where we could end up with a tornado on the ground. It's not confirmed, but it is a concern to the south of Highway 60. All right, so we're going to pause it now and go closer in so you can see kind of the closest in view of where we're concerned. Tulsa down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, not in the mix for this storm. It will be passing by to the north in town, but it is going to be a concern for places towards Bartlesville eventually. So here's a closer in view. That's the inflow notch. That's where the winds are flowing into that storm, rotating outward where that flank kind of dives out there. All that said, we could end up with that rotation as you see there. It appears a bit broad, but within that we could end up with the spin up. You see a little bit more of a signature there just south of Little Chief. That is an area we're going to be watching very closely with our incoming radar scans. So this tornado warning in effect till 3:30 will affect areas over western Pawnee and Osage County. Really the greatest concern is going to be heading along and south of Highway 60 over the next 20 to 30 minutes. Pawhuska, your sirens may be sounding. Winona, you're also just at the edge of this warning as well. If it does take slightly more of a right-hand turn, Winona and even into Barnstall, you'll be in greater, once again, danger in terms of that tornado threat. We want you to, of course, remain calm. Head to a place of safety if you're in the tornado warning zone that is extending all the way from Burbank all the way to the north of Pawhuska and back through Winona. Move into that interior room. away from outside walls and windows. We haven't had to do this much this season so far, as it has been a quiet season, but today the ingredients are there in place for not only severe weather, but also a potential tornado. Our storm teams are on this. They're tracking this from various angles from areas to the east along Highway 75 in Washington County. That's where Darren Stevens is, our own Val Castor. Also not too far from Ralston. And also to the south, we've got Brandon Wells, and he's moving along Highway 412 and Vaughn Castor. So our storm teams are approaching this from various angles. But of course, there might be multiple areas of concern. This is kind of a multifaceted storm. We have south, we have a very powerful flank extending all the way to the north sides of the city of Pawnee. This will be continuing its way to the north and east at about 40 miles per hour. This does include the threat for golf ball sized hail and winds up to 70 miles per hour. So as it moves to the northeast rather quickly, this is going to be passing on by. Now, in terms of the areas around Burbank, you're out of the tornado danger, but you're in line to see some of that large hail. If you're not seeing it already, it's likely to be coming down within the next few minutes. And once again, we're looking at our new signature here and still getting that reflectivity indicating circulation near Strome, over to Little Chief, and back to, I'd say, even Remington. This is the area where that storm is kind of notched in on itself, which would indicate that rotation. The leading edge will be approaching basically along and south of Highway 60 over the next 10 or 15 minutes. Pawhuska, now's the time to go ahead and take cover. This storm coming up rather quickly. The skies were sunny just 15-20 minutes ago. It's turning dark and this storm rolling in, and that immediate danger is actually on the leading edge this time. So you won't have much warning with the actual storm before we actually have that tornado concern rolling along with it. Now to the south, that flanking area is indicating very powerful golf ball size hail, more than likely north end of Pawnee County. I'll put a whole storm track on this whole storm, so even if you're not in the tornado warn zone, this is the time to be moving indoors away from outside walls as well, and alert just in case there is a greater tornado threat to develop on a different part of the storm. So we're going to take this basically, I'm going to redo this actually here. Try this one more time here so we can get a good track on here, extending from 4 Acre down towards Scheidler and the Pawnee area. This will be moving to the north and east at about 40 miles per hour or so. We'll put it over here into Pawhuska by 322, about 320 or so. Skidee by 302, Winona 327. If you're in Ralston, it's pretty much at your doorstep. Pawnee, you could be seeing that storm developing a little further south, which would include that threat for large hail or some damaging winds. 4 Acre as well in the mix for some powerful storms, basically including more of a hail and wind threat. The actual area for a severe thunderstorm is going to be in that whole zone, but the tornado threat, a much more confined area just south of Highway 60. We'll go closer in once again, take a look at what that signature looks like, and on radar, it really shows that Strome over to Little Chief is the zone where that rotation is still strong. It's broad, but it's still indicating some very powerful winds on the leading edge. So at the very least, we have 60, 70, maybe 80 mile per hour winds coming in around Strome and Little Chief, and this is going to be angling its way into Pawhuska. So if you're in Pawhuska, that's okay. And so we're looking at RIM 24 right now. That's our source that you can see on your screen, and you see downed limbs coming in from areas. Let me see. That would be coming in basically near Ralston. The Ralston area. So this storm already has produced some at least tree damage and making it very difficult for travel. I do believe we have someone on the line at this time.
We've got Vaughn and Darren are both on
okay,
the line.
And Stephen Narrance, meteorologist Stephen Narrance, also joining me as well. Let's get you said we have Vaughn at this point?
Yeah, Vaughn and Darren, they're both headed that way towards that storm. They're both on the line. Vaughn is coming up from the south, approaching that storm from the south. Darren is out ahead of it to the east of that storm, kind of intercepting it on Highway 75, and Vaughn is coming up into Osage County right now. Do you want to take I don't know if you want to take a look here at the shear rate over here on Links 3. The good news is, and you can show it on your computer.
Sure,
as well,
there it is right there. You can see on your screen.
The good news I'm seeing is that shear rate product, which we use, which is another way for us to indicate the strength of rotation, is there's not a whole lot showing up there. And like you mentioned, the circulation is pretty broad, which is good. It's better than being a very tight circulation. So that's good to see that the shear rate product is pretty minimal. But like you said, there's still a lot of broad rotation. And if nothing else, like you've mentioned a few times here, especially on that southern flank coming in just to the southwest of Pawhuska, easily 60 to 70 mile an hour wind damage potential, if nothing else, which is more than enough to be taking cover for here. If, like you said, Pawhuska, Winona over the next about 10 to 15 minutes. Wind damage is certainly a high possibility in addition to any sort of rotation.
That's right, Stephen. Thank you very much on that. And once again, this environment would be very susceptible to very damaging wind gusts. A hot day like today, that indicates a lot more fuel for those storms. And really the primary risk would be the high winds. We still have that area of rotation. Fortunately, as Stephen was mentioning, it's broader. It's not nearly as well defined. So this would still be a high wind threat, but perhaps not an actual tornado on the ground. That is the good news. Also, hail. We could be getting some large chunks of hail back towards Fairfax. I'm going to draw on the Barron product here. And really where you see the red and the yellow, that is damaging hail that is likely falling. So between Fairfax and Burbank is where the largest of the hail is. There's the new update, though. There is a reduction in that hail size. That is good news. Doesn't mean the storm is necessarily weakening altogether, but it might be cycling down just a bit. Downburst winds are a possibility as well. The wind shear as the storm is overall in the environment not super high, so today's environment is not one susceptible for a number of tornadoes, but there could be a tornado risk, especially along the boundary there. That is why it is warned until 3:30 for the areas from near Fairfax back to Pawhuska. If you're in Fairfax, the warning has actually still includes you, but your threat is much lower, but therefore you are still seeing the hail threat right overhead at this point, and the gusty wind threat also, and this is going to be heading much closer to Pawhuska with time. So once again, this is an area where we have Val Castor, we have Darren Stevens, Vaughn Castor, also his counterpart there, and also down to the south we have Brandon Wells. They're tracking all aspects of the storm so you can get the best idea of what is going on with this. We're going to put this into elapsed mode, and you'll see as it's tracked over time, it developed that quick notch. Now it is broader. If it's moving off that boundary, it becomes much less of a tornado threat. The environment today really supports high winds and hail and a lower threat of tornadoes. That's why severe thunderstorm watch and not a tornado watch is in effect. On your screen, though, what you see from Val Castor, there appears to be some structural damage. It appears to be some outbuilding that has lost part of its structure, possibly a roof there. So due to the high winds, this is something we would see, and this is near Fairfax. As we were concerned about, the rotation was there, and if it wasn't a tornado, at least we know there are very powerful winds associated with this thunderstorm. So right now we have meteorologist Travis Meyer. He is here as well, and he is tracking the storm. What do you have for us, Trav?
All right, latest information as we continue to look. This is along a boundary and an outflow boundary that was established really during the early morning time period, and this seems to be right in a zone where we're finding that is again the most likely area where we've had a little bit of extra spin up. Now normally most of these again under a severe thunderstorm watch are going to be just strong damaging winds, some golf ball size hail, and winds to 70 miles per hour. The biggest thing that has happened out of this is that with some rotation around the Fairfax area, and again in relationship here's Skytook Lake, and Stephen, I'll have you bounce out just a little bit just so we can get it again in terms of like locations compared to Tulsa. You can see Tulsa right in here, and then you look back to the west and you see how this system is moving to the east-northeast. So at this time, as it continues to track to the east-northeast, it's just one huge cluster of thunderstorms, and this cluster will continue to track most likely around this outflow boundary, and so that's why we think that there's still going to be a danger zone for the potential for a tornado along this line. So you can see from the wind damage that Val has there that those were strong winds, and those look like, judging from some of his video, you can see some of the information there. In fact, as we look, I'm just kind of watching Val's video too. We're seeing the potential for the hail core. Marty sitting on that part of the storm just to the north, but this is the areas which we're going to watch closely. And as you watch the video coming in on the left side from around the Fairfax area, this cell, and we'll take a closer inspection of what's going on. So we have the hail core, what's going on particularly in there. We have our tornado warning until 3:30. Is that right, Stephen? Yes. And so that will be for the area highlighted in yellow that you see here, which will include the community of Pawhuska. So again, until 3:30 for a tornado warning here. So let's take a look first of all and see what we have. As we mentioned, the velocities, the circulation feature. There's a couple things going on. So this is right along Highway 60 at this time, and so this is where it's looping across the region of Highway 60. So this is coming in on the Pawhuska area at this time. So if you're around Pawhuska, we would like you to be aware that there will be strong damaging wind potential for these storms. So this is probably 60, 70 mile an hour winds, and as we're showing you up here from Val's video, you can see that that could potentially be higher, like 80, 90-mile-per-hour winds. And so we're talking about, again, conditions that are favorable still for some very, very strong damaging winds as that continues to track to the northeast. Let's put it in loop mode if we could on velocities for a second, Stephen. And what I want to share with a lot of folks here is that as this continues to move to the northeast, and again, you can see the tornado warning outline, that is moving to the northeast. So the circulation features associated with this is that there is a flow of air coming this way and here, and because of that, those strong winds that are moving in right now for you guys at Pawhuska, we want you to be advised for that, because this is the damage from that as it moved right on through. And so now that's right along Highway 60 at this moment. So that is tracking to the northeast, and you can see as that tracks to the northeast, I'll take it over Highway 99 just to the north of Pawhuska. In fact, let's go in a little bit closer, if you would, right into the velocity core of that. And when we look at right where we're looking at the worst of it at this time, again, you just go west of Pawhuska, so again over the open land there. And as we look at the tallgrass prairie, so a lot of this will be going right over the tallgrass prairie area just to the east of Scheidler, but the potential for a tornado continues, and if not a tornado, wind damage potential is very high. So this is not supposed to be the norm for the rest of the afternoon, because we do have the severe thunderstorm watch in effect. And so usually when you say severe thunderstorm watch, you're not really worried about the potential for a tornado, but tornadoes can and occasionally do get formed in a thunderstorm, even under a severe thunderstorm warning. So just be aware of that. Also, the Barron button, and taking a look at some of the analysis. We're in storm analysis mode, and you can see that right now most of the areas not showing up anything other than maybe up to inch diameter size hail, and with some winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour, that is anticipated to be a bit of a problem. Also, the hail swath showing up with it's had a history, and just over the last hour or two, because this system, as it has been moving and developing and moved about, it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours ahead of schedule compared to what we thought would happen. But as this is tracked and developed around the Perry area, continued through Red Rock, and then back on up to around the Fairfax area. And when you see the black colors right in here, that indicates really higher probabilities of really heavier, larger size hail. And so the density isn't quite as heavy or as quite as noticeable when you get to Fairfax, to around the Burbank area, but you can see what we have as far as that moving across Highway 60. So this is the location again, Osage County. This is not Tulsa. So if you have friends that are at Mayfest or at the Blue Domes Art Festival, that is not a bad deal, as far as this should stay just to our north and to the west. But unfortunately, if you're any place lined up from around the Pawhuska area, Bartlesville area, and then extending, you can see how Darren is just located right in this location near Barnstall. We're going to keep an eye on how this flies to the east. So the main circulation and strongest wind impact coming in right now on the Pawhuska area. Tornado warning continues to show up, so we do have Val right now. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Good. All right, hey Val, if you're with me, can you give us a lowdown on what just happened in Fairfax?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Okay, we have been following the storm for a long ways now, and it's just been getting more and more wrapped up. And I'm going back south through town. The most of the damage is on the south side of town. We're seeing lots and lots of trees down, lots of tree damage. There's a carport laying out in the road up here ahead of us. We're about to get back to that now. Big trees down. Parts of roofs have been ripped off of buildings and houses. The downtown part of Fairfax has quite a few awnings from businesses that have been blown off and into the street. As a matter of fact, there's some power lines down across the main road in the downtown part of Fairfax. We're going to try to work our way back down. As you can see, all the leaves scattered through the street here. It gets worse as we go south. And here is the carport. Okay, look at this shot right here. People pulling trees, trying to get it out of the road right there. This is common all over Fairfax. And I'm going to pull up a little bit further right here.
Okay, and Val, does that look like more of a downburst type thing to you, or what?
No, what I think it is, I think it's the wrap around the south end of the mezzo, okay. Because everything is blown from west to east, and I would estimate 90-mile-an-hour winds came through here.
All right. Man, okay, they've got a lot of work to do. We have news crews also on the way. Val and the rest guys are going to continue to be covering that, so we're going to continue to watch what's going on there. We have just to the, really with Val and with what's going on with that particular storm, we do want to make sure that you realize that this is a very big wind damage event. Now, the only thing is a lot of open rangeland is right in that area. So Val, I'm going to let you go for just a few seconds here, and we're going to go and just take a look at where this is located and how this is moving back on in to the areas from around the Pawhuska area to around Bartlesville. And so as you see what's going on, we want you to just be aware that this is going to be blowing and going right across Pawhuska. So if you're around Pawhuska, Darren is intercepting this storm near Pawhuska right now. You said we have Vaughn, Michael?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to Vaughn right now and come in a little bit closer on this if you would.
Okay.
And if you guys could, let's go full screen for just a minute unless you see some more damage from Val. Let's go to Vaughn with a quick update. Vaughn, what do you have for us?
Okay, I'm just entering Hominy right now, Travis, and I'm getting pretty strong outflow from this, which is a good thing, bad and good thing. It's pretty strong right now, 45 to 50 mile an hour outflow, but that's going to reduce the tornado threat for this area right now. But it is pretty strong, but we're gonna follow this as it continues to march east, Travis.
All right, thanks, Vaughn. Appreciate it. And again, Val is right in Fairfax. Vaughn is sitting just to the south of that. You can see where Darren is located. Full screen on my links for, if you would, for a minute. I want to get everybody a little bit more of a storm track and so that everybody can see where they're at in location with that. Again, as we look at the strongest of the winds, this is where the winds are the strongest at this time. And Stephen, I'm going to have you zoom in a little bit closer because you can see Marty's back on the north side near Burbank. Here's Fairfax. And then this is coming right now into Pawhuska. So there is a bit of a wraparound. And so when we say meso, that means it's circling. It's a meso, and a mesocyclone means it's going in a circle. So we can tell that this is rushing in toward the radar. This is pushing away from the radar, and so we have a curvature going on right in here. So this is just probably where most of the damage is occurring, has been in this zone right through here that went from around the areas of 4 Acre and then extending now to around Pawhuska. So this is going very quickly through 4 Acre, and a sample, for example, if you could give me a shear product.
Yep.
Back in there, and also an ID, just to give you an idea how this is moving. So this is rapidly moving to the east-northeast right now. So if you're in the Pawhuska area, we still have the tornado warning in effect, but I would just want you to know that if you're in this zone, you have a pretty good chance that we're going to end up with some potential power outages here in Pawhuska as that's blowing on through. We'll talk to Darren in just a minute. He's going to be closing in on that as it's intercepting. The strongest shear swath, and you can see, is the strongest winds. This gives us an idea. The radar is telling us where's the strongest winds, what's going on, where's the most violent areas of the storm, and this gives us a real high probability that that was the location as it went through the Fairfax. And you can see as it's gone to the east of Fairfax now, it's not as intense as it was. So there is a strong indication that the worst was around Fairfax, and then for folks who are out in the country, probably haven't even reported this because we don't have our guys out in that area, but it could be just right back to the west of Fairfax as well in the country, and then just east of Marlin. So this is a location that most likely received the most significant damage. And as this is going east, we're still picking up bits and pieces of that. So I still think we have some strong 50, 60 mile an hour winds. And you can also see the outflow. This is the outflow on the south side that Vaughn was just talking about that has the potential. Here's that line right in here. So that's a strong winds shooting back down towards Skytook Lake. And Vaughn didn't report really excessively strong, severe winds. But if you are on the west end of Skytook Lake, you'll probably have a wind shift coming up in just a little bit. So don't be surprised there. Also, I want to go to, is Darren available to us? Is he back online yet or not, Michael? You're talking to him? Okay, if you could, I'm going to get him and get a picture of what the structure is. Was that Sean?
Just remind me.
Okay, yep. I will, and wanted to mention as well, and Sean just brought that to my attention, a lot of folks kind of wondering about Mayfest. Is it going to be a trouble for being downtown Tulsa? No. Right now the storm track is just to the east of that, and Michael, if you would, I'm going to have you go ahead and widen this out, Michael, Michael, sorry, Stephen. I was looking at Michael. He's busy talking to me. And so the watch, the severe thunderstorm watch, is for far northern portions of our viewing area and just to the northwest of Tulsa. Does not include Tulsa at this time. We think that we're going to wait a little while before we have a chance of some strong or a few isolated severe thunderstorms. There is still some that are out to the west that are back over in this zone, but we're going to be watching this as this comes flying on up into the area up around the Bartlesville area, and then Pascal is also just to the north intercepting that. So we have our guys all across the area, and we're going to let you know and being able to sample what's going on here. And you can see Darren's video right now because he's literally in Barnsdall and rolling on through town at this time on Highway 11, heading back on up. And so he'll intercept right into the nose of this, and you see this outflow zone here. So that's why we want to make sure that if you do have plans, the tornado warning is still in effect officially till 3:30. We're at 317, rough 316. And so we'd still have this circular pattern, which is the meso, which we call mesocyclone because it's still a very strong cell that blew up, and so it is rotating. And so right in this couplet that's just north of Pawhuska is still where we have some strong shear indicated, and then of course that has just gone through the Pawhuska area. Stephen, if you could you give a storm track now that'll take us and show us what it looks like as far as around the Barnsdall area. Also, Michael, did you say Darren? Okay, hey Darren, if you're there, could you give me I know you're going through town right now, or just getting out of town, Barnsdall. What's the structure look like to you from where you're at?
Yeah, Travis, I'm going to zoom in on that leading edge that you're talking about right there. And if you'll look near the center of the shot there, you'll kind of see those ominous-looking clouds. Now, as you just said, we're still several miles away from it, so we're not able to confirm, any type of rotation from, where we're at. But the point is, those clouds that you see as they come towards you are very ominous. It's more of a shelf type looking cloud, from looking northward out of Barnsdall, Travis. But looking at some of the emergency management reports, we're looking at hail from inch and a half to inch and 3/4 associated with this storm, and spotters have reported winds up to 70 miles an hour, Travis.
All right. Hey, thanks, Darren. Appreciate it again. So as we look at what's going on, that's from Darren's location, and this is the storm track. Also, as this goes on up towards the Bartlesville area right now, we're anticipating that will be happening within about the next 30 minutes. So again, if you're around Bartlesville within the next 30 minutes, there is a chance we will have a threat of severe weather moving on through Bartlesville with some strong winds. So this is still an area, strong damaging wind potential, hail potential. Let's go back hail swath if we could for a minute. I'm going to see if there's any indication. So once we've gotten through the Fairfax area, and as we look at where Darren is in relationship to the storm, so this gives us a pretty good idea from around Pawhuska. We really don't have, as that system has come through, we've had the winds, but the hail swath, hail core, that also is indicative of not quite as intense as it was when it just powered up. Still a severe thunderstorm. We might see the National Weather Service cancel the tornado warning for the time being. That's not to say that we couldn't see this regenerate again. As I mentioned when I just started here a little bit ago, the outflow boundary that is situated in this area also can help spin up some issues when you have a thunderstorm like it is right now. So as you look at this, we still have the inflow into this and wrapped around. This is the north side now, moving on Highway 99. You can see around from Barnsdall back to the northwest now. So Darren is literally just coming in on it at this moment. Vaughn is on the south side, as you can see there. Is Vaughn still online?
Hayes, Mike.
Michael?
Yes.
Vaughn is? Okay.
Yes.
Hey, Vaughn, if you're there with me, can you go ahead and talk to me for just a second about what are your winds now back behind this outflow boundary?
Well, when the outflow boundary hit us, I'm going to say they're probably 45 to 50. They're really pretty strong. It was shaking the truck, but right now they've calmed down. Not really calmed down a whole lot, but they're not that strong. Probably 35 to 40. But we're getting in the view here where we can see actually some structure to this, the base, and so on. So as soon as we get up here to the Winona area, we'll have a better look at it, Travis.
All right, thanks, Vaughn. Appreciate it. Let's go back on over to Brother Val. And Val, do you have an update?
Yeah, we came back through Fairfax a little while ago, and there is a lot of damage in town. And you were asking me earlier about the straight line winds, and yes, that's exactly what it was. All of it was from the west. I know that the circulation passed just to the north of Fairfax, but we saw wind damage even in Ralston, but it was very intense in Fairfax. There was people dragging trees out of the streets. Awnings for businesses are out in the roads, power lines are down, and just lots and lots of tree damage. Those people up there really got a mess on their hands, Travis.
Okay, hey Val, and real quick, you said power lines. Now, does that, you think that covers a broader area than just Fairfax? Did you say Ralston was involved in that too?
Well, Ralston has some trees that are down in Ralston, but it's not nearly as bad in Ralston as it is in Fairfax. And the town area, Atlanta Road, I would just bet that areas north and east of Fairfax are probably seeing more power lines down, I would imagine.
Okay, Val, I greatly appreciate it. I know you got some more storms you're tracking, and we'll be doing this probably all night long. So I'll let you go. Thank you very much for the report there. You can see Marty is also just to the north of him in Burbank, and then you have Darren, who's on the front side of this system, and he is now, Darren's in a great position to get a good view of what's going on. Darren, if you're with me, what's the update on that? And that's Darren, are you there? The problem is, I'm going to mention is that Osage County, our cell coverage, you have to just hit it just right. He's about ready to hit a hill here. I think it looks like he's coming close to a hilltop.
Okay, he's gone for you. Hold on.
He's gone?
He's here.
He is back? Okay. Hey, if you would, Darren, video's kind of stuck right now, but if you would, just go ahead and give me an update on what you got.
Yeah, Travis, we can still see the base of that storm as it's moving upwards, into northeast Osage County. But here on the backside, when that outflow boundary hits you, your winds are going to be anywhere from 45 to 50 miles an hour on the backside of this, Travis.
Okay, so again, if you're any place, and especially around Skytook Lake, which is on the south side, but as Vaughn was reporting, and Darren's saying the same thing, 35, 40, 45 mile an hour winds, not good winds to have if you're on the lake. So if you have some friends that are at the lake, Skytook, you might just kind of maybe give them a quick call. They probably already know about it because hopefully they have the News on 6 app or weather app because it warned them and let them know what was going on. But still, that's coming up across Skytook Lake on the west side. We've had 63 mile an hour wind gusts now at Burbank. So these are some very strong winds that have been reported with this storm as it continues to track to the north and east. And so you can see there's the outflow boundary Stephen's putting on for me. So that will continue to the east. Skytook Lake is right in here. So again, with friends there and even down to Keystone Lake. There's a chance you could have some 30 to 40 mile an hour winds. And if you're out on a sailboat or just in a boat, that's not a good thing to be caught out with, especially since the storm's to the north. And so a lot of folks probably aren't paying attention that it's really that big of a deal. Coming in closer, though, I want to show you the strongest circulation is tightened up again back to the north. And this is back to the north of Pawhuska. So we have a very strong indication of circulation right now that is located just really from Highway 1099 intersection just to the west about 4 or 5 miles. So if you're in this area, ranch land right in this area, I do want you to be aware that the potential for a wrap-up tornado is not out of the realm of possibility here. Certainly the wind damage potential is there. This is definitely, when you get down to this type of detail, and we're looking at what's going on right in here, and again, this is the inflow coming right into it, wrap around the backside, pretty good chance that we're going to be seeing either a tornado or some strong wind damage. And again, that's open rangeland, been up in this area, beautiful country, but it has a pretty good high probability of causing some problems. So this will be tracking almost right along Highway 10. They'll take it around the Copan area at 402 and then around the Caney area at 406. So if you are in these areas, I want you to be prepared. In fact, is Pasco online yet? Is he starting to make a move to the west? He should be intercepting that. He won't have to move. He could almost just stay right in that spot and be in pretty good shape to see it. So this is the biggest thing again, Osage County. Kind of a broader view for just a moment, if you would, Stephen.
Yep.
So down in Tulsa, we're relatively quiet. We have our severe thunderstorm watch for the rest of the afternoon into this evening. That goes all the way out to the west. And we have additional showers and thunderstorms. Some of those thunderstorms will be coming in later tonight. But you can see in the blue counties, this is where we do have severe thunderstorm watches in effect. And the watch, not watches. And the watch indicates that there is a chance, large hail, damaging winds, and you can always have an isolated tornado. So far, we're not going to call what happened in Fairfax a tornado. And Val has been around about, 2.7 billion tornadoes, I suppose, in Oklahoma. I'm making a joke out of it. It's not funny, but at the same time, he's seen so much that he can almost instantaneously tell us for sure what's going on. Do want to point out, back to the southwest, though, there's an area cluster of showers and thunderstorms. A lot of our models were saying, hey, you'll have these thunderstorms coming in later tonight. everything is much faster than what was anticipated and what all of our guidance. It's amazing. You have like 7 different computer models. There's like 2 or 3 that we love a lot, and then they kind of even let us down a little bit by a couple of hours. They were in the right spot. It was just slow. I don't know. Still got a ways to go on getting that figured out. So tornado warning should expire at 3:30. We're coming up on 3:26 here in just a moment, but we're still looking at a couple of areas of concern. So the big clusters here. Here's the relationship to the Tulsa Arts District is fine. No problems there. We do have at this moment Darren. He's flying across the region. Let's come back in if we could a little bit on this cluster, and you can see Darren on the south side there with Vaughn. Darren, I'm going to give you first dibs. Do you see anything that indicates any winds? Anything strong, any damage at all, or are we okay in the South Pawhuska area?
South of Pawhuska, we're getting gusts, 40 to 50 miles an hour, but so far we have not run across any damage yet. But of course, the main area of concern is a little bit to our north, and so we'll be on in just a few minutes, Travis.
All right, I appreciate that. Also, Vaughn is a little bit further to the south. And Vaughn, if you would, give me a quick update on, I know you're south of Darren, but what do you see as far as structure is concerned and everything?
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit more structure here, but those up around the couple thousand feet up, you can see those winds. The clouds are really moving. So just above the surface, those winds are really strong, and that's what we're worried about is if those winds come down to the surface, we could get some 70, 80-mile-an-hour winds, Travis.
All right, Vaughn, thanks. I appreciate that. And so as we look at this, as this is coming on through and the storm, and what we're looking for, again, is just making sure that we have everything covered. Still want to make sure that if you're just along the Highway 1099 area, just to the west, this is still a very tight circulation feature. That is going to continue to track to the northeast. But along the Highway 20 area, and Stephen, I'm going to have you, if you would, do the storm track for us. That is awesome. And so this is pulling out along this leading edge of the strongest of the winds. And so this is going to take it as we look at what's going on that will show, and we have a severe thunderstorm warning now in effect. This will go until 4:15. So we're extending the warning further to the east. And so we're officially now sitting off of, well, we're not officially at 3:30, we're at 3:27. 3:30, officially the tornado warning should be expiring, but we'll see what happens with this particular area. Also, Bartlesville area at 3:43 now for some strong damaging wind potential, 350 at Dewey and 358 at Copan. So within about 30 minutes, we'll be blowing and going on through the Bartlesville, Copan area. So this is the highest probability of strong to severe thunderstorms. And if you would, Steve, go back to the southwest just for a minute, because I want to just point out our news teams are looking back to the south and west. This is the Highway 20 corridor. This runs, it's kind of a nice drive if you've never driven it, from Skytook Lake back around the Hominy area up to around Ralston. You get into the kind of the southern ranch lands in those areas. But unfortunately, from around the Ralston area and then extending back on over from the Arkansas River, which is right in here, and then back over because there's a little bump from Fairfax right in here, and then goes back here. We're getting a lot of reports of damage in this zone. So we're going to be looking at all of that. But I mentioned that this is a great product that we have, and this gives us a shear swath, which again is indicating where the strongest winds have been, not where they're going, but where they've been and where the biggest punch has been hit from Mother Nature. So that includes the Marlin area, and then that extends back on over to Fairfax, and that fits in line with the reports we're getting now where most of the damage is occurring. And so pointing
this new kind of area.
Okay, and good point. And so this is that tightened up area that we were just talking about a little bit ago that wrapped up a little bit. So note that this is where this has continued to track. So this tightened area right in this location, so just 99 to around Highway 10. Mm-hmm. So we still have this strong inbound, or I should say outbound and inbound as we call it. And that circulation feature is very tight nugget right in there as far as that's going up around Highway 10. Can you give me just storm track right on Highway 10 if you would for a second? So again, this is north of Pawhuska. Darren's just to the south of that. We have Pascal just to the west of that. So he's going to be intercepting that and have that ready to go. Also, okay, thanks. Is that on Lynx 1 or Weather 11? Just yeah. Weather 11. Could you guys punch up Weather 11 for just a second while we're getting storm track all set up on that? Well, we can just show a storm track first here and then get ready to go to Weather 11 if you would. Copan at 402, Caney at 405, and then you can see this is a look at Bartlesville. So this is coming in on Bartlesville at this moment. It doesn't look for boating, but you guys are expecting to get some 50, 60-mile-an-hour winds. You could get some hail up to golf ball size as this system starts to roll on into Bartlesville. And as we said, that should be in the next 30 minutes. So we're looking from near the downtown area, looking back to the west, southwest, and so that's what's coming in your direction. This should be mainly at Bartlesville to north that has a higher probability of being severe. Back to the radar if we could. And so here's that tightened area that's still concerning. Really anything along this leading edge is concerning. And so Pascal's in great shape right now, just positioned as this gets ready to move on in. Is Pascal online yet?
Not yet.
He's not? Okay.
The tornado warning has expired.
It did. Okay. So the tornado warning's over with. Where this wind damage potential, though, continues in this area. So we do want you to be advised for that. Also, Darren's now on the north side. Darren, if you could, give me a quick update. Anything that you saw, power outages, anything in Pawhuska, are we good?
Other than, small tree limbs scattered out across Highway 99 as we go northbound on it, Travis. No noticeable power lines down or anything like that, but the wind gusts are picking up. We're approaching 60 miles an hour on the wind gust now, Travis.
Whoa. All right. So that's going strong. And that is the new severe thunderstorm warning is now that covers a huge area. Now we're all the way on over to around Nowata. So we're through Nowata County and now we're into northern Rogers County. Northern Rogers County isn't even in the severe thunderstorm watch. But this continues to flow right across an area that is going to track just south of Highway 60. But the strongest part of the storm should be around Bartlesville to the north. You can just kind of see the core. It's pretty easy to visually see where that is in relationship to what's going on. And so this, as this continues to track to the northeast, that's going to be clipping. You can see the areas from Bartlesville. That's coming up here at 3:45. So on the west side now, it's a little bit sooner. So that we said within 30 minutes is really within 20 minutes at this point. And then you get on over to into Kansas at Tyro, 4:05, Lenape, 4:20, Coffeyville, South Coffeyville, about a little after 4:20, 4:26, 4:27 time period. So if this holds, which we think it will because it's right along this boundary, we'll continue to have to deal with some strong damaging wind potential. We do have our severe thunderstorm warning in effect. And again, you can see the National Weather Service extended this out a long way. And if you're just joining us, we did have damage from this as it started to develop out along I-35, came up through Fairfax of Pawhuska. Darren just intercepted that. Didn't see any damage per se on that. I want to go to Vaughn for just a minute. And Vaughn, I'm going to have, if you would you give me an update too? I know Darren just went through there, so I'm not trying to redo what he just did. But do you see anything yourself? See anything that would lead us to believe that there's it's a little bit more impactful than what we think it might have been?
Not yet, but I think that stronger part maybe just clipped Pawhuska to the north. Just now running into a little bit of rain, light rain right here. But like I said, these lower clouds are really, really strong just above the surface in this outflow. There's really strong winds right above the surface. We're going to be following it as it moves towards Bartlesville. Back to you, Travis.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it. Once again, guys are out in there all over. And you see that we have all of our guys right along the leading edge of that. JD's also intercepting that as it's going to the north, so he'll be in a position to intercept just south of Bartlesville here in just a moment. So as we mentioned, right around the Copan area. And if you would, I think if Pascal doesn't go too much further south, I think we'll be okay on that, especially with JD going north. Just want to make sure he catches a little bit more of the meat of this. And can you give me a shear swath and see if we have anything else on there that would indicate that we have something going on? So this is that other part that we were concerned was tightened up a little bit from Scheidler, and now just to the north 99 of where Darren is located. So this is still potent, but it's not nearly as strong as what it was, obviously, where we saw all the damage from just a little bit ago. And I don't know, Jeff, can we re-rack some of the video in a little bit? Okay, and I'd like to share that because we're going to do that in just a little bit because I want to share with you some of the things that are impactful areas that we probably have with some of the wind damage potential. Still is about 50 to 60 miles an hour, and our severe warn storm here is for 60 miles an hour plus. So we're going to keep an eye on this particular area. We do think, though, that as that moves to the north and east, and you notice how much leeway we're having on the far south side here of this. This is the outflow boundary from this thunderstorm. That will probably lay another area that is going to be a gust front, or that is a gust front, and the outflow, that's cooler air coming in. And so that could set the stage for what will be the next round of showers and storms a little bit later on. That could, I don't know if it'll quite make it into downtown Tulsa, but it could, because we're sitting probably close to 90 degrees, I think, right now. Are we still about 90 downtown? 90? Okay, so we're about 90 downtown, and temperatures most likely have fallen in the 60s right into that area of thunderstorms. So that'll be a huge difference when people are standing outside going, what just hit me? So just be advised for that. We got Darren? Okay, good. Hey, Darren, if you would give me another update. It looks like he's near 60 and just north of 60 and 99. Darren?
Yeah, we went on 99 north, Travis, and a couple of miles north of 60 there is noticeably a lot more tree limbs and debris on Highway 99 north. So we're starting to get more into it, Travis. So the Passable ought to have a really good look at it as it comes through. There's a big tree. That tree was 6 inches around that was laying across the road right there on 99. 6 inches around.
Wow. Okay, so we're still getting winds. We're still getting strong winds right in there then. So that's, again, so if you're riding along the leading edge of that, I want you to be advised. Let's go to weather 11, guys, if we could one more time, as that's starting to roll on into Bartlesville now. It's just on the west side of town. So just literally coming in to the west. So you can see this would be a shelf cloud. So it's that's a SLC if you ever had one. What's that? Scary looking cloud. So this is what is moving on in. I'll get out the picture so you can actually see it. This is a reference to what's coming into town. So some winds 60 miles an hour. We have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for you guys in Bartlesville, Washington County, as we said. And there is potential for up to golf ball size hail as the storm tracks to the east. And is Pascal, have you been able to get him online yet? Is he still hanging in there someplace? He's moving. We know that. So we'll try to make sure that he's gets online with that. Also, as you look at what's coming in on Bartlesville, we'll do a storm track here in just a moment for that particular area because I want you to see how that's just rolling right across the area. But there it is. That's a look at Bartlesville live. What's coming into town right now? That is not a tornado, but that is strong winds. And even though it's scary looking, hopefully you will have 40, 50 mile an hour winds, and that's it. All right, let's go back to Links 4 for a minute, and we're going to take a look at how this line is rolling through with the thunderstorm activity, and as that continues to roll in. So we now have the whole pretty much a solid line from the Kansas state line just to the west of Caney, and then that extends back down to just west of Bartlesville. So this is where that shelf-looking cloud is located, literally just to the west of Bartlesville. So that has picked up because we're at 337. We were saying 445. So I mean we're getting there, but as you'd see it moving into town, we are anticipating that this will continue to hold together. So if you're around the Copan area and west of Lenapaw, you'll most likely be in a zone where you'll have the chance to have some strong gusty winds as well. Hail cores still potential right in this area. And you see our storm track now 344. We're sitting at 337. 338 basically right now. So you can see in reference to where we are in terms of Bartlesville, and then also where Pascal is. Is JD on the line yet? Okay, hey JD, I'm going to get a look from you, JD, if I could, and just you're looking up to the northwest. What do you have for us?
Yeah, just off to my west, you can see the edge of that shelf cloud. As I'm rolling just south of Bartlesville on 75, I got hit with some very gusty winds out of the west, probably around 50, 55 miles an hour, blowing debris across Highway 75 and creating quite a commotion. So as we look off to the north and to the west, you can see that shelf cloud with a lot of heavy rain and frequent lightning strikes, Travis. We'll get back with you.
Hey, I appreciate it. I don't see the video coming up. Michael, you might have to get his video someplace there. It might have been Pascal's video. Is that on? I'll let you take that. So, Stephen, if you would, let's go in closer and take a close look at that storm again coming in on Bartlesville. You can see Darren's video is froze up right now because he's again in kind of a tough location. So here's the core of it coming in on the Bartlesville. So this is literally looking as it comes through into the west side of town. And on, let's see, if we can, you can see the velocities are already through town. So literally this is coming right through the city as we speak. And so as that wraps around, that's why JD is reporting the strong winds that he just had on that particular cell. So that is Bartlesville. Zoom in and real close if you would. Get down the city streets. He's now on 42. JD is?
Yeah, that's his
Oh, it is? Okay. That is, all right. Is Pascal's, where's Pascal's at this? We're resetting. Okay, good. All right. So right now, so this is right coming through the Bartlesville area at this particular moment. You can see JD is where it is located. We still have the severe thunderstorm warning till 4:15 for our area, and our area meaning Bartlesville. So you can see the velocity. This is the velocity trend, and this is why those clouds look so ragtag coming on through, because it's just kind of a very rough and turbulent area. So therefore you have some reds, greens mixed, and so that gives you a pretty good indication that we have a lot of volatility in there. And you can even see this is kind of an interesting little feature right in here. So that means there's some very strong wind potential across this whole area as that continues to blow in. Can we go back to the Bartlesville Weather 11 for a second? I think that we can just see it blowing on through town. And you see JD's video there. So here it is coming into town right now and what it looks like. And do we have live Pathfinder also, Stephen, available to us or not? And then so you can see it coming in on town. We'll kind of get an estimate here, just a quick estimate as it's moving through Bartlesville. So we have your severe thunderstorm warning. We do not have a tornado warning. We do not have a tornado warning, just severe thunderstorm warning. And I like to say just because this time of year in May, well, it's notorious for having a lot worse weather. So just as you realize what that storm is coming through, you have winds 40 to 60 miles an hour potential. Looks like there should be about 40 to 50 on that. We're looking at how the trees are waving right now and whipping around. Pascal's just on the north side of that around the Copan area. So we're kind of getting a surge coming up across the Bartlesville area at this particular moment. And you can also see JD. I'm going to get an update from JD. JD, can you give me an update? I see you're in town right now.
Yeah, we're just pulling into the south end of Bartlesville. We're approaching Highway 60. We got hit with some very gusty winds again. It'd be the second round there as we're traveling north on 75. A lot of small tree limbs. I haven't seen any power outages or power flashes, but I suspect there'll be a lot of tree damage in this area as this wind blows in, Travis.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it. And so again, that's looking at radar. If you can come in a little closer. Okay, I see what you're doing here. So this is where this storm's been coming through. And so the south end is here. It doesn't look as structurally sound as it did before, which is welcome news. But as we look a little closer into where JD is, and Michael, are you going to send him east on 60? Then so you can stay ahead, that'd be great. And then Pascal is sitting right up there at Copan. So higher probabilities right now sitting around Bartlesville. Then you see west on Highway 60 for extremely heavy downpours of rain. I don't know if Darren is available right at this minute, but Darren's been on the kind of on the back side of this storm. Did you say yes? Oh, it dropped off. Okay, because he's in a rough spot to try to keep the signal steady. But again, as you can see, some very, very heavy rainfall going on across this area. Should be some small hail with this. I don't think it's quite as bad. Once we get through the Bartlesville area, we'll most likely, if we don't have anything worse, we'll go back to programming. But in the meantime, as we're going through Bartlesville, this looks like this could be a hail core right in this particular zone. So don't be surprised on that. Again, our severe thunderstorm warning expires at 4:15. Our storm teams are all around that. They're surrounded at this particular moment. So, and that looks like about the hail core that we were thinking about with the storm analysis. And so that is just to the west of town at this moment. And also you can do a pixel query if you would. And so in this area, we should be getting golf ball size hail, 1 inch diameter to possibly a little larger as that's moving across the Bartlesville area. So there is a chance we can actually get that. We're talking about, again, what was that?
Storm Prediction Center is reporting.
12 miles west of Pawhuska.
Yeah.
From when? Just was that a brief tornado west of Pawhuska? Okay.
Yeah,
earlier this afternoon.
yeah, 2:59.
Michael's got it. Okay.
Yeah,
So there was just a report of not just, but at 3 o'clock, so basically 45 minutes ago, of a small tornado possibly near Bartlesville. Go to Weather 11. Weather 11, please, if we could. So again, hail cores right here in Bartlesville. So now we're looking at, again, getting out of the way. So this is the strong winds coming in. It looks like a blizzard. And so we could have some 60-mile-an-hour winds there. Usually when you get that, you get 50, and there could be, it looks like more 50, but if you start seeing branches, that's why the severe weather warnings are estimated at 58 miles per hour, because that's usually when you start seeing significant branches as rather than twigs and leaves blowing off. That's when you start seeing a little bit more in the way of getting some damage and potential for power outages. So just be aware that that's the case. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning also now issued up into Kansas around the Cherryvale area and also for Montgomery County. And I'll talk to Stephen in just a second about that, but this is a live look right now in Bartlesville, so you should be around 50-mile-an-hour winds, possibly a little stronger, and you could be picking up some quarter-size hail. Let's go back to radar real quick, and we'll get a look at what's going on. Here's the other severe thunderstorm warning, and if you could query that for a minute so we can get the severe thunderstorm warning time period. So that's at 4:30. That goes until 4:30. This is a very intense storm for you guys up at Cherryville. That should be a hailer right now. That is tracking obviously toward Parsons and more out of our area. But we've also added Montgomery County, Kansas now. That Montgomery County, Kansas is till 4:30, and that will be covering areas of southern Montgomery County, so any place really south of 160. Not really, that won't include Independence, so it'll be primarily just the southern half, and that is to do with that particular cell that is coming up across the Bartlesville area. So far, Tulsa is doing fine, and if you're just watching TV and figuring out what's going on, we're not having too much in the way of any issues at this time for Tulsa. We're quiet. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch farther to the north, so we're going to continue to monitor what's going on across areas to the north, and with the severe weather coming across Bartlesville and northern Washington County, winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour and up to golf ball size hail with this particular cell as that tracks to the northeast. The tornado risk is going down considerably, so that's good news, and we're hoping that that will be the case because we don't know if for sure it was a tornado, but we've had a couple reports. So the Pawhuska one, and then also some of the damage coming out of Fairfax, which we believe to be more straight line winds, more in the way of a feature of not usually with the tornado, or you have circulation winds. So I mean, you have trees laying both directions, and that's usually the first indicator that's like, that's not normal. It's not all laying in one direction with the debris field. So we are watching, see what happens here, but so far velocities and everything else showing the same. Here's the latest. Dewey at this time, we're in past Bartlesville, and then should make it to around Lenapaw at 4:16, and then around Coffeyville about 4:20, and that is going to still be very, very strong in terms of how that flows right through. So we're getting it through the Bartlesville area at this particular time, and then also as that tracks on through, we'll be seeing that this is the hail core from before. Can we go back to Pathfinder for just a second? And I want to look at that for just one moment, and so if I can see there's the hail core now. So this would be the hail core in relationship to just northwest of Bartlesville. I don't want to see any of our storm trackers there because I don't want to replace the wind chill. But the hail core most likely is just literally to the west of Dewey about 4 miles. So if you're around the Dewey area, more than likely you're probably in the middle of that. I see that's JD's video. Let's go back to JD. He's in some heavy rains right now, and he is just on the leading edge of that as he's going east on Highway 60. JD, quick update if you would.
Yeah, Travis, we're traveling east side of Bartlesville on Highway 60. Very heavy rain and still a lot of gusty winds. But right now it's just the small tree limbs. It's none of the big stuff. So right now it appears that everything's going okay. We haven't received any hail, so we'll keep an eye on it, Travis. Back to you.
Okay. Hey, thanks, JD. I appreciate it. Also, we have Pascal, who's just on the leading edge of that. Let's go on up to Pascal, and we'll rearrange so you can kind of see it on radar where he is located, just a little bit farther to the north. I mean, the hail core continues. You can see right in that area, and then Pascal's just sitting just along Highway 10, so he is literally right along that area, which is just, if he's looking back, I don't know. Pascal, let's find out what you have. How does it look from your angle? You there? He's online, but I hear windshield wipers, but I don't know if that's him or not. So, okay. Yeah, no kidding. We're looking, okay, we'll go back to Pascal in a minute. We'll see if we can get him. We've had problems with trying to connect with him, but he's on the leading edge of that. We had his video, so we know he's right in that vicinity. And then you can see Vaughn is on the south side. Vaughn's coming in kind of west of Bartlesville at this time. Is Vaughn still online? Okay, hey Vaughn, if you're with me, okay. Hey, have you seen anything as you've been on that south side coming in on the back side of those storms?
Not really. Just on the north side of Pawhuska, there were some trees that were, broke at the base. So pretty strong winds on that side, like Darren had said earlier. But so far down Highway 60, it's been pretty good. We can see the back edge of that storm to the northeast there as it moves through Dewey, and it does look pretty ominous. And so we're going to stay on the back of it here, Travis. Back to you.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate it very much. So again, that's Vaughn, who's on the southwest side. So that's what we have right now. And Sean, do we have video yet coming in? So haven't heard getting a thumbs up from them yet. So thunderstorm activity still around the Tulsa, or not Tulsa, around the Bartlesville area. So you can see the line. Let's start up north if we could. And then we're going to look right along this leading edge and zoom in after we have a big bright picture there. So we have the severe thunderstorm right now around the Cherryvale area. This one, in fact, looks a little bit more ominous because there is a boundary located right in here. And so there is a concern that this could be a quite intense severe thunderstorm with large hail, damaging wind potential, which is obvious with severe thunderstorm warnings. So if you're up in our far northern portion of our viewing area, just be advised. So this is just on the east side of Cherryvale right now. From Parsons and northeast of Cherryvale, you're probably getting a pretty healthy hail core, and you could be getting some strong damaging winds with that particular storm. That was supposed to go until, was that 4:30? 4:30. So, and then on the storms that are from southern Montgomery County, from around Caney, Tyro area, and then extending back west on Highway 10. Okay, good. Pascal should be back online with us right now. Pascal, you see that leading edge of that coming in? Pascal. He seems to be online, but he just seems to not be able to talk to me. Pascal, are you there? And so, all right, we're going to work that out. Anyway, so as you see the strong winds, in fact, zoom in real close if you would, Stephen. I want to get down city street level here. So just right in that area, that'd be great. Thanks. Okay, so here's the leading edge of it. You stay, this is third time. Third time's charm, is that what you're saying, Michael? Okay. Pascal, you there?
Yes, Travis, I'm here.
All right, good. It's good to talk to you today. Hey, give me a quick update. It looks like you got a great shot there as that's starting to roll on in. I know you had to stay ahead of it a little bit. So is that just to your west?
It is. It is. I'm about to ready to relocate, but this is straight towards the 475 looking at it.
Okay, so again, from his location, he can see that, and you see kind of the shelf cloud look to it. Wind should be around 50, 60 miles per hour. It's at least it's on the lower end of a severe storm status, so we're not quite to the point of getting like Katie bar the door, but it's worth noting that that's a severe thunderstorm. Pascal's just on Highway 10, just watching that, looking back to his west, and you can see his location right now in 1. And so here's 1, and then Highway 10, and so this is the leading edge of that, and that's where that shelf cloud's located. So as that's coming across, you can see it's kind of scary, basically scary looking cloud. So you can see where he has that coming in right now, and then you can see the rain curtain that's down below that. Very nice structure on how that looks. And by nice structure, if it's not doing any damage, it's beautiful to look at what Mother Nature can do. So this is the leading edge, winds 50 mile an hour or so right in this area. So this is just about ready to move in on 1. And you see that's also on North 4040 Road. And so that's just right in that area along with Highway 10. A little bit further to the south, as we stretch down to the south, we're going to be looking at along this leading edge. And so it's similar situations, really rough ragtag cloud formation. So that continues again on 40 Road, and then a little bit to the east of that. JD's right along that leading edge. Let's go over to JD. Hey, JD, give me a quick update on what you have, would you, on the winds?
Yeah, I'm out in front of it right now, Travis. I'm actually just in the gust front, so we're getting winds like 30 miles an hour sustained here on Highway 60. So the stronger winds are just a little bit farther back to my west. So we're out in front of the rain, and we're going to keep traveling east and get where we can get turned around and get you a nice shot of this thing, Travis.
All right. I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. So again, as we look at what's going on, so that's the situation. All right, let's go a little bit closer on in and come back and look at radar again on Lynx 4 and the line that we have. So that's JD, and you see the outflow boundary right in this area. You can also see as this continues to track to the east, pretty much the hail core is starting to weaken a little bit, so I'm feeling pretty good that this storm is in a more of a weakening stance than it is in a strengthening one, which is good news to hear and to see. And so if there is some hail right now, it'd be running right around the Dewey area. And I think Darren, is that Vaughn? That's Vaughn right there coming in on town. Hey, Vaughn, I know you're just west of Highway 60. You can just, I see him right here. Can you give us a quick update on coming in town? Any damage, anything going on around the west side of Bartlesville?
Yeah, on the west side, we're seeing a lot of limbs down, smaller limbs on the west side of Bartlesville. Have not seen any hail at all in the ditches, Travis, which is a good thing. But we saw one sign that was down on 60, one of the billboards, and then lots of this little housing addition just on the west side of Bartlesville. There's lots of little bitty limbs down, maybe an inch in diameter, maybe a little bit bigger than that. But other than that, looks like it fared pretty well. Back to you.
All right. Hey, I appreciate it. So updates again coming up from Bartlesville area, Dewey, and again the hail core showing up. And I call this the hail core, but this is a higher probability. This is reflectivity values, which a lot of times are indicative of where there's a better chance of hail. So the hail core has moved a little bit further to the east of 75 now, and just to the east-southeast of Dewey, and that continues to move to the east. So you see the general trend. You see a lot of the storm structure, the cloud structure as well. And then also we've got Pascal moving in a different direction. And then also, I want to go back up, Stephen, to the storm at around the Cherryvale area, if we could, in Kansas, and just take a look and check that one out again. Just make sure that's not doing anything goofy. So this is kind of, and I don't call this, don't take this wrong, this is no man's land for radar. It's very hard to have a good radar presentation because we're in between Springfield, we're in between our radar and Wichita, so you're kind of at it's kind of like southeastern Oklahoma. It's kind of really rough because we have to stretch the radar beam as far as we can to get a pretty good indication of what's going on. But this is still east of Cherryvale. There's still a little bit of circulation feature going on just north of Mountain Valley. This is a severe thunderstorm warned storm, so that is going on for about another 15 minutes. So it's pretty steady state, so there's going to be very, very heavy rainfall from around the Parsons area back on into areas just to the east of Cherryvale. So you'll see how that kind of is just sitting in there. It's kind of training over that same kind of that same spot. So it hasn't gone north or south. It's just kind of coming up across that same corridor. And so that's going to keep very heavy rain. So it's a small area, but the potential for some flash flooding is definitely in your area. That goes again till 4:30. And so we want you just to be aware of that north of Altamont. Also back down in the western portions and southwestern portion now of Montgomery County. So that's where we have right around the Caney area, some of the heaviest rains. And Darren's been coming up on the back side of that and getting around and kind of weaving through some roads back in that area. In fact, his signal is still not hanging in there because of what's going on. But just know that that's still very heavy downpours of rain. Is Darren even online yet? So we can't even get a signal out of here. So again, some very isolated areas back into that location. And then you see also from around the Dewey area, still the heaviest rains are located there. That is moving to the east, and so around the Coffeyville to South Coffeyville areas, and then extending back on to northern portions, north central portions, really Nowata County. So that is a good place. We need rain up in this area, so it's a good place for rain. And if it is weakening the way it looks like it is, then we're in pretty good shape. Coffeyville area now, you're roughly closing in on 415 to 420. We also like for you, when you see that specific number, we want you to generalize just to make sure you don't. We say it's going to be at 415. I would really prefer that you take tornado precautions ahead of time. I've had multiple people say, well, you said it wasn't going to be there till 415. That's an estimated time of arrival. And so what we want you to do is make sure you're prepared before then and ready to go to the Frady hole, not just waiting till 415 to go. Okay, because that's still, there's give and take in those areas. We have JD right now. Thank you, Michael. So let's go to JD and see what he has as he's on the leading edge here, as we said, back on Highway 60. And so, JD, what do you have?
Yeah, right here on the leading edge, Travis, on Highway 60, I'm getting sustained winds around 50 miles an hour. There's not much of anything here to show you for an example of the wind. There's no trees or anything close, but very strong sustained winds, not just gusting. It's just a steady, probably around 50 miles an hour. So we're about to jump back on Highway 60 and continue east before the train gets us, but we'll let you know what we see, Travis.
Okay, I greatly appreciate that. We also have some video that's coming in at this time from some of the damage that was happening earlier at Fairfax. If we could have that video right now while we have just a moment here before we have to get back to severe weather coverage. This is some of the damage that Val Castor had, meteorologist Mike Grogan and meteorologist Stephen Nairns. They were on this from the get-go as the storm was rolling in from I-35 and then moved into far western portions of Osage County. Along with Val Castor, Marty was out there. We had Vaughn and Darren. So our guys were ready to go. It's just a little early. Everybody's like, what? That's happening now? So fortunately, the guys were in place, but you can see some of the damage and tree limbs, lots and lots of tree limbs. A lot of damage reported across that area. The good news is the fact, though, that we do believe that it's not like devastating. It is just enough to cause headaches, and a lot of people that will have to go out and pick up a lot of tree debris and be working on that later as well. Where was that video? I don't know where that was. Okay. Anyway, so this is a look again. We have our severe thunderstorm watch in effect in the counties in blue. And Stephen, could you back that up just a second to include western Oklahoma for a second? As you do that, I'm looking at southwest Oklahoma. You see our storm trackers across the state. I cannot tell you how nice it is to have a statewide storm tracking team. It is incredibly awesome. And so we have guys all the way in southwest Oklahoma, and they're going to be tracking some of these storms that will be coming on in. And we have the helicopters. We have everything we need to cover what's going on. But the storms here in north central portions, I should say northeast parts and north central portions, should continue to track more to the north and to the east. The ones to the southwest, could you lapse that for me for a second, if you would? And what I wanted to point out was that as that's moving in and out of the southwest right now, that we've had the pulsing of them to being severe, and you can see they got all severe, and then just recently they dropped some of the severe. But I do think that that's still looking, based on some of the new model data and all the new information, that that's going to continue to track up to the north and to the east, and gradually we'll be trying to come across our area. Now, I do want it to rain. I just don't want it to rain on Mayfest. And if you have some friends or family or anyone who is wanting to know, so far so good on Mayfest. If you're still headed down to Mayfest, that's fine. The time tonight, you should make it through about 8 o'clock tonight before the potential for severe weather moves in. I would say midnight, but again, everything has been just a little bit earlier. So I want to go back for a moment, and you see our severe thunderstorm watch. They'll go on through this evening, but severe thunderstorm warnings, we still have the basic ones. Now moving into western portions of Nowata County, and it looks like Darren's just finally getting back into cell reception territory, but he's on the backside. We can have Pascal, who's on the front side, and JD, who's now on the front side as well. So the biggest impact, you can tell, is right in this zone just to the northeast of Bartlesville. But in the southern Coffeyville area, not Coffeyville, southern Montgomery County area, just west of Coffeyville, we just have a little bit of indication around the Caney area of maybe a little pea-sized, nickel-sized hail at most. And so that would be tracking to the east-northeast. And then you can still see what's going on down here. So that still shows up pretty well around the Dewey area. So this is our storm analysis, which gives us a pretty good idea. It takes a sampling of what's going on in the atmosphere and then relays it as to what it is seeing. And so this is just a couple of minutes old, but it gives us a pretty good idea if the guys aren't exactly underneath it. So the hail core is still hanging in there. And so you can see where the relationship to Bartlesville from Dewey and then east of Dewey, and then that's moving back over to some rangeland as it starts to head toward Lenapaw and also around Delaware. And you see where JD is located in relationship to that. And also I have Pascal. Pascal's shot looks pretty good right now. So let's go back to Pascal if he's available. Hey, if you're there, Pascal, would you give us a quick update on what you have and what you're looking at? It looks pretty good right there.
Yeah, Travis, I just parked here, and I think I can't remember the road of this deal, but so far nothing. Just a heavy rain as I'm seeing. I don't see any hail coming down, but we'll keep an eye on it. I'm going to check it out real quick, and I'll get back to you, Travis.
All right, thanks. I appreciate that. Also, JD is on the south side of that area, and he's now in advance. He's pretty much in advance of that outflow boundary. JD, can you give me an update on what you have?
Yeah, I've gotten far enough out in front of that I've got out of those real strong sustained winds and out of the rain. Like you were saying, it's very ragtag, a lot of, ragged, low-lying clouds, scary-looking clouds, but it's really not looking too great. It's just kind of a rugged, ragged shelf cloud, so we're going to get out in front of it a little bit farther and then turn back and look to the west and show you what this thing looks like, Travis.
All right. Hey, I appreciate it very much, JD. Thank you very much. And you can kind of see, and I'll, again, looking at the storm structure itself and kind of seeing what it looks like right up in there, that's pretty impressive still. So if you see that coming in your direction, as we've said before, it's kind of that scary looking cloud thing, but it's not too awful bad. Here is a look, though. Again, the hail core pretty pronounced, and you can just look at that and say, that doesn't look good. Well, that's not. That is probably the most likely area where the hail core is located. Stephen is putting that together at this time and showing how it's going to be moving across the areas around Lenapaw and now crossing 169. And when I say 169, you go, is that Tulsa? And that's, again, we're way up north, so we're closer to the Kansas border. But this gives us a pretty good idea from where that is located, just to the east-northeast of Dewey. And so that's going to take it up to across Lenapaw. So this hail core could actually be affecting you guys here very shortly at 416. From Pascal's location, he's looking back at that, and so he has a good view of what's going on there. And then also, as this tracks across this area and it goes near Lenapaw area, we still have an additional cell that has fired fired up just to the southeast of Dewey. And then we will be watching the southern end and the southern extent. The outflow boundary is pretty significant. You can tell where it is. You can kind of see it with me. And you can probably make it out from around the Nowata area at this time, and then arcs back down into northern Tulsa County. Now it has moved through the Skytook area and back down around Keystone Lake. The thing about it now is the fact, because this says move so far to the northeast, a lot of the energy that was pushing is no longer pushing that area. So that outflow boundary does look like it's going to come awful close to getting to downtown Tulsa. And so that still has a kind of an interesting potential to cool it off a little bit downtown and not cause any storms. But the one thunderstorm that's still a little potent, a little powder keg, you could say, is just up to the north. And you see this structure again from Pascal's shot. Looks very good with shelf clouds situated right there. And so he is literally looking right back into the main part of this storm. And then where his location is, and can you put Pascal's shot behind me if you would for a second, please? Thank you. I know that's doubling up for a second, but I just want to show. So this is the area where the air is flowing out from that, and then this is surging up into it, and so that's bringing in warm, moist air that's being pulled back up into that, and then we go back. Can I go back to that shot for just a second? There, thanks. Sorry. That wasn't quite finished. So when we have this area, as it comes through your area, we expect that to be the strongest winds, be right along this leading edge of this. And you'll be able to, as you watch Pascal's shot, you can just see those clouds slowly moving to the left. But there's very warm, moist air that is shooting up right in this area in advance of it. And the structures, obviously, there's a lot more scary looking clouds than these. But this gives you a pretty good indication that this storm still has enough structure, enough power to it, that we could actually have still some severe weather associated with it. I think it's a lot weaker and a lot smaller than it was when it was originally starting, as we said, up down to the southwestern portions of Osage County. So that's about the only thing. So again, back to radar if we could, please. And so here's a look again. Severe thunderstorm warning continuing in effect. This will still cover much of northern Nowata County, and then southern Washington County is not affected, just the northeast. And really the severe weather is moving out of Washington County. So if you're in Washington County right now, the worst of the weather is through your area for the time being. Not to say that we won't have additional rain or thunderstorms, but you can see how this has continued to move. A little bit of development on the southern flank, which is not surprising because that's still air that's being pushed and pulled off to this, being pulled through, and then that warm, moist air coming up across it, because this is very unstable air still left in this area. So from where Pascal is located and where JD is located, you can just make out what's happening here. You can see the storm track that we have that continues across northern portions of Nowata County, also in southern Montgomery County. So if you are in these areas, some 40, 50 mile an hour winds. We did get a, when was that? Was that 59 Copan? Was,
yeah, about 15 minutes ago.
15 minutes ago. So we still have some strong winds there. So Michael reporting 50, almost 60 mile an hour winds. Talala, you guys were at 40 mile per hour winds. So fairly strong, significant. So right now, if you are going to be in the areas, or if you're in the north and watching us, at this point, Coffeyville, 416. So we haven't changed that timing at all. It's basically 407 right now. And then as we go on through Mound Valley and then to Edna and Altamont, that'll be at 446 as that moves across Labette County and southern Montgomery County and northern portions of Nowata County. And then it should, if it holds together, will still potentially be severe around Craig County. So they're not going to release this warning based on the fact that as that storm went through Copan, we had basically 60 mile an hour winds, which is severe. 58 to 60 is kind of the threshold for severe. And so that's what is happening right now, is that there's still strong enough winds along that leading edge to make a difference. So as that's Pascal's shot right there. It's still good looking as far as a shelf cloud, and as that's just blowing and going on through. Is he moving north, or is he going? He's going north. Okay. Is JD going north? Okay. And so hopefully JD can get up there in time to stay ahead of that, because he's going to run right into it at this point. Is this off of Pathfinder? Yes. So right in there. Okay. So here's the what's left of the hill core. This is weakened a little bit. Can you give me about a 30-minute lapse, if you would, Stephen? Stephen's just a wild man. He's been working the morning show and helping us nonstop. Okay, so here's how it's moving through, and I kind of wanted to share this with you. You can see this darker area right in here, and then as it's been moving east, so we'll go back and do it again. It blows up right here just on the north side, falls apart, it gets near Dewey, and then comes back, and now is weakening. So this is kind of going up and down, up and down. So the black areas indicate more intensity, so it's a little bit more severe, and you see how that's just kind of getting stronger, weakens a little bit, and just hangs in there. Now, right now, we're kind of on a little bit of a downward trend, still very, very strong or severe in this zone. So there's still a hail core, and that's the one that we were just pointing out, and Stephen gave me a storm track that took it right through Lenapaw, so it's literally just knocking on the door for you guys, picking up some hail right in there. Storm's already in Delaware, and JD is just around the Nowata area. Hey, JD, you got an update for us?
Yeah, I'm in downtown Nowata, turning north on 169. I'm just a little bit out in front of it here in Nowata, but as I travel to the north, I can see it's protruding a little farther to the east. So we're about to get into the meat and potatoes of this storm, and we'll let you know if it's got any hail inside of it there. So when we get up there in it, we'll holler back at you, Travis.
All right. Hey, thanks, JD. I appreciate it a lot. So again, if you're just joining us, the thunderstorm itself is this part again shows us a hail swath where the storm has been, and it's been producing hail. So it's still a pretty good producer of hail. So that's why this warning more than likely will continue. And notice this, so that picked up a little bit because of that core I was showing you that was on live radar. And as that continues, we're just like zeroing in right now, literally on Lenapaw. So that is the hail core, the primary area that's dumping hail. And most likely, I wouldn't be surprised if that was golf ball size or larger. I don't. Is that about the? Have we had any reports? I know Darren had reported earlier, but I didn't see too many other reports. But this is. This even shows on some of our analyst data, so on the analysis, so on our storm analysis. So that would be just literally coming in on your area. So right around the Lenapaw, west of Lenapaw, you should be getting some chunks of hail falling from the sky at this second. So we do have your severe thunderstorm warning still in effect till 4:30. And well, that's Bartlesville. Okay, so that's not quite golf ball size. So that's not too bad. We can get a picture of that maybe on the air in just a little bit. But I could almost take my camera and just point it at you and say, here's my picture. So thanks, Sean. Yes. So but if you are in these areas, we do want you just to realize that the potential again for severe weather in Lenapaw is here right now, and that's in central portions and northern portions of Nowata County. And if this holds together, we're going to be in the same boat. So it's pretty interesting to just see from town. Literally, it should be starting to hail on you in just a moment or two. Let's look at velocities if we could on this too, just to see. This is the outflow, so it's outflow dominated, which gives us that's a good thing, because when it's like that, that means that we have no tornado potential. I shouldn't say no, but a 99% chance of that tornadoes won't occur behind an outflow boundary. I say that gently. Oh, they did. Okay.
Exactly what you're indicating.
Stephen, you want to repeat what you just said?
Well, just that the severe thunderstorm warning for this storm, as the tornado warning expired and the storm continued to the east, it still had small rotation potential and the potential for maybe ramp back, kind of a spin up, another spin up. But they had National Weather Service mentioning that they have seen the tornado potential lessen. They removed the tag of tornado possible with this storm, meaning that the tornado potential has lessened quite a bit with the storm. Like Travis mentioned, more outflow dominant, so still damaging wind potential, but the tornado potential has lessened considerably from what we had about 30 minutes ago or so. So that's some good news. Obviously still some hail potential though, Travis.
All right. Hey, thanks, Stephen. I appreciate that. Good point. And so again, as I look at the outflow from this area from around the Lenapaw, so this is the main part of it. So, and going south a little bit further along the highway from just east of Delaware, we're near Childers, and then looking back down the South Cooties Bluff. So this is right where the outflow boundary is located right here. So we're just east of Nowata, so the gusty winds associated with that right now. Also with Pascal, he looks like he's gotten into the storm a little bit as it's starting to catch up with him on the north side near Coffeyville. Pascal, can you get us an update on what it's like up there by Coffeyville?
Chicken fried
steak. Hey, did I hear chicken fried steak? Is that Vaughn talking on there, chicken fried steak? Is he's hungry? Okay, let's go to Pascal for a minute if we could. Pascal, what do you have?
Yeah, Travis, can you hear me?
Can. Go ahead.
I'm in South Coffeyville. The winds picked up at about 50 miles, almost 60 miles an hour, zero visibility.
All right. Well, that was a quick one. That was a quick change of what's happening there. So that's along that leading edge, and so that's a pretty powerful little shot coming across that area. Again, we are in a severe thunderstorm warned area. Coffeyville, you are in a warning, and that's quite obvious why. You can see the velocity updates as well with us, and you can tell it's a very turbulent area through Coffeyville at this time. So this is where the stronger winds, 60-mile-an-hour winds, are residing. That is continuing to track to the east. I would imagine, well, they just issued, I was going to say, I imagine they're going to issue a severe thunderstorm warning. I think they just did. That's going to now be inclusive of all of Labette County based on what just happened here in Coffeyville. So that is the leading edge. And let's, yeah, and I'm going to, if you could, query the areas in southern Labette County here for me for the watch, or for the warning, the new warning, because we have two new warnings here. And so the new one is now till 5 o'clock. For Labette, and then if you can catch Craig County for me real quick on that one, same thing. So they're going to be put together. So this will be for northern Craig County for this storm that just won't go away, and also for southern portions of Labette County. So these will be severe thunderstorm warnings simultaneously through 5 o'clock for this line of strong to severe thunderstorms. You see how it's arcing out now. So this is going to be wind damage really along this whole leading edge as that pushes to the east. So that's now south of Cherryville. And the storm that was warned for Cherryville is now all the way up to Parsons. So that is moving up and out of our area because that's in northern Labette County. And so that's basically out of our picture for the time being. But this arc that you see here, and also the one that's down to the south, now this one's a little bit more protruding outward, but you can see as it advances through portions of western and southwestern Labette and then into northwestern Craig County, we'll still experience a 60-mile-an-hour wind potential with this. And so just know that you're going to be in a position to probably get some damage or wind damage, and that could go right on up till about 5 o'clock for Welch in Craig County. So Sanders, and then Mountain Valley, Edna, Altamont, these are Kansas towns. That'll be about 4:30 to basically 4:30 to 5 o'clock. We're sitting at about 4:16 right now. So we're watching that whole line, and you can see that it just won't go away, but it is staying on the northern periphery. This is the Kansas-Oklahoma state line, and you can kind of tell Coffeyville, South Coffeyville. And then we saw something that I didn't know ever before, West Coffeyville. Been here forever, but I've never saw anything. I saw that come up on one of our storm tracks. I went, West Coffeyville? Where'd that come from? I hadn't heard that. And I've been in Coffeyville a lot. But anyway, so you can see right along Highway 10. So this is strong winds. Let's go back to Pascal for another quick update. Pascal, how's it right now?
Travis, still heavy rain. Winds about 30 now. Visibility is medium, so about no longer heavy rain, but a lot of the clouds are light clouds to ground for lightning. No hail yet, Travis. Back to you.
Okay. All right, good to know. And then, so he's in the middle of that in Coffeyville, and that's blowing and going. Still estimating winds right around 50 to 60 miles per hour, so it's right on severe limits. And as we said, new severe thunderstorm warning for Labette County. A little bit further to the south, along this leading edge in Nowata County, you can see that that's still a chunk of a storm going strong, and that's taking it, looks like it's going to be kind of taking right along the Highway 10 area. You can see JD is also trying to stay in advance of it. Is JD moving east now on 60?
28.
28, okay. So he is, it looks like he could stay in an area that will kind of catch up or stay close to it. But this is going to be the main part again, is right around Lenapaw. Let's go with storm analyst if we would. And you can see the hail cores right over Lenapaw or just from west of Lenapaw. And then that's where we anticipated it would most likely be dropped. And also from Pathfinder. Live Pathfinder, and looking at the, okay, so there's the hail core. Could you zoom in on that just a little bit for me, please, so I can get a better street idea of what's going on there. There you go. So that's just crossing 169 right now. So that would be the, as we look at that, that would be the primary hail core for you guys that are up in that area. So from Lenapaw, so that should have gone just on the Lenapaw, north sides of Lenapaw for the worst of it. And then that'll be continuing to track to the northeast across some ranch land there. And then you see on Highway 20, and then extending south of Highway 20, and that'd be from 4170, north 4170 Road and west 1300 Road. Right in this area, so that's another part that most likely will have some hail associated with that, and that will track as well to the northeast. So this is all part of it, and JD is kind of in the mix of that. JD, do you have a chance to give me an update, or are you too busy right now?
Yeah, Travis, I can give you that. The storm getting some heavy rain just right on the edge of it. We're looking for a place to go north here on Highway 10, but so far have not encountered any hail, and seems like the wind slacked down a little bit. It's not, it's not gusting 50, sustained 50 like it was. We're just getting some gusts now. So as we continue to travel east, we'll let you know what we encounter, Travis. Back to you.
All right. Hey, thanks, JD. Appreciate it a ton. So that's the situation we have right there right now on those particular storms. You can see we're sending our crews back to the west a little bit, too, to make sure that we're ready for the next round. We'll talk about that coming up in just a minute. Hail core still shows that the higher probability of large hail was near Dewey, then east of Dewey, right on the county line, Washington and Nowata County line, just west of Lenapaw, and then that came into Lenapaw. So we still have that potential coming across the area. So the two biggest parts of the storms, there's really kind of two parts to this. The one is the north up in Coffeyville and north of Coffeyville, and the one is the south side that we're talking about with JD and how that is continuing to track into northern portion of Nowata. And this is the county line here for Nowata and then on into Craig County. And as you can tell, we have a lot of grids and squares, but we also have a lot of open areas, which means there's a lot of open ranch land in these areas. So we do have severe thunderstorm warnings going on in those particular zones. And then back to the north into Kansas, we have strong storms still going on, severe winds 60 miles an hour. Right along this leading edge. That is also making the move now into southern Labette County. So if you're in Montgomery County, you're on the backside of the heaviest of the rain. So your warning pretty much is ending in the next 10, 15 minutes, especially southeastern portions of the area where Pascal is located right now. That's where the strongest winds would be located right to his east. So he's right on that leading edge, or just close. He's just right behind the leading edge of the weather that's coming across. See the you can see kind of the light area that's just right on about this height there, and you're looking at it. So that's that leading edge that's just right in front of him right here. So we're literally looking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 4 to 5 miles in advance of him. So it's kind of weird, or it's cool, I guess you could say, that you're just following along with the storm trackers. So you're getting to see what they're seeing. You also, if you're in this area, you get to see what's going on as well. So we're very happy that our guys are going through the rain, the storms, and hail, and wind, and everything else this afternoon. If we could, Stephen, could you take us through the bigger picture of what those storms look like out to the west? And if you would, go ahead and give us an update on what those storms are like out west.
Yeah, so we do obviously still have a little bit more to go. This is just, like we mentioned, this first round here really came on strong a lot quicker than we were hoping it would. We were thinking we would be starting to see this first round develop about now, as opposed to 2.5 hours ago like we saw. But we do have additional activity that's still building back to the west and into southwest Oklahoma as well. So if we could go back to links 4 here, just to give you a wide view on radar. Again, we do have kind of a couple different areas of showers and storms ongoing. Right now we have one cluster down in southwest Oklahoma that's a little bit ragged, not severe. We also have a couple more storms up into north central Oklahoma. They're just kind of on the western fringe of our viewing area, and I will give you I'll zoom back in just a little bit so we can get a better look at those storms in north central Oklahoma, kind of in the same areas where we had these storms develop a couple of hours ago. We do have one storm. Again, this is just just west of our viewing area near Medford that is severe. That's moving to the east-northeast. If that continues, that would take it into areas from Bremen to Blackwell, and probably just staying just to the west of Osage County. Additionally, we also have a few storms that are not severe but strong storms, thunder and lightning, maybe even some small hail here developing just to the south. This would just be coming in on Morrison. You can see Brandon is right out ahead of that. More than likely, at least a chance for some small hail with this cell coming into Morrison right now. Again, not severe, but that storm has kind of flared up just a little bit over the last few minutes. So that's something we're keeping a close eye on. But like you mentioned, there are still a couple more rounds of storms to come. That activity I showed you in southwest Oklahoma a little while ago is going to be kind of the next batch that we will eventually see spread into eastern Oklahoma later tonight. That's still several hours away. That'll be late tonight and even into tomorrow morning. But we, again, several more rounds to go, Travis, but at the very least, the activity to the west, not as severe as what we're dealing with right now. Again, our main severe thunderstorm continues off to our far northeastern counties across areas north of Nowata up towards Coffeyville.
All right. Hey, also, thank you, Stephen. And yeah, if you could go down into Nowata right there for me for this second, because we're getting some new reports of 40, 46 mile an hour winds with that. And JD, can you give me a quick update on wind speeds from your location and then what that's looking like as far as your area?
Yeah, Travis, we just went through a little hail core there where we got some dime size hail and mostly speed size hail, and the wind.
Okay, I think I just saw where you're going. You can see he's going down in a valley. So just as he's going down there, that sounded like his audio cut out there. And we'll probably see him next time when he's on top of the next hill over there. But to give you an idea, these storms, as they've moved on through, we've had reports of quite a bit of power outage. Not horrible. Fairfax, which is back in Osage County, a little over 200 people or customers without power. Now, the only thing that I think is kind of interesting is the amount of damage that was around Fairfax. It seemed like there would be a lot more power outages than that. Also into Osage and Washington counties, there's about 89 in some of reporting about 1,500 around Bartlesville, so that ended up being a chunk of folks that ended up having lose power. So if you have friends in Bartlesville, about 1,500 from PSO being reported at this time around the Bartlesville area. A little less than 100 in some of the rural areas in Osage County, and then back toward Fairfax where there was damage, about 200, a little over 200. So that made a fairly significant difference. Also, we're still looking at the hail cores going on where JD is located, but I want to go to some video just real quick. If we could re-rack Fairfax for a moment. I wanted to share with some folks some of the videos that have happened as we've gone through this afternoon. As the storms really got wrapped up just east of I-35, they started getting pretty intense once we got into southwestern portions of Osage County. So that would have been just north of Stillwater ways. You can see folks trying to clean up after a lot of troubles and problems and everything else with tree debris. And that's why I thought, well, we should have a lot more. You can see a carport had blown out there. We felt that it was strong wind and damaging wind potential was going to be with these storms today, golf ball size hail. So again, with some of that, you get the general idea of what's happened. And that was from Val Castor. That's Vaughn's brother. It's always cool to have Vaughn and Val Castor brothers. They're running across the state. But it was also pretty intense. In fact, speaking of, we'll go from Val. Let's go on over to Vaughn. And Vaughn has an update for us at this time. Vaughn, what's going on?
Yeah, this is, I'm in Pawhuska, and I am kind of on the north side of the city, and there is a lot. We had a report from a police officer that said there's